Let the bass kick.
California sand, hotter than hell, man.
Burning feet off.
Quite opposite. Like
and then the water's super cold.
Oh yeah.
Sand just sucks.
You need the half-inch wetsuit for California water. Yeah, I used to die of Catalina and brr.
Yeah, the Pacific is notoriously cold.
Yeah,
I've never been to California.
I've been there once, but never been to the ocean over there.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to Last Cash, episode 23. I'm Will.
Still Marcus over here.
Jay.
And joining us tonight, the illustrious, the magnanimous himself, Steve Kerns. Steve, Hollywood Kerns. We started talking about California already.
That's
Golf
right.
snaps for Steve Kerns. A lot of you guys know Steve. He's an institution in the Nashville disc golf scene, often found at Seven Oaks. But you've been coming out to our bag tag events and stuff, and you're seen out and about, and from time to time.
I enjoy getting out, seeing all the courses, and kind of been around as they've evolved, and enjoying seeing the new ones and some of the changes going on, and it's been a beautiful thing seeing everybody pitch in and make things happen, and money going towards something real positive, and the community's always been, really wonderful. I'm really blessed to be a part of our disc golf scene here.
And our history.
Well, we're blessed to have you, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been around how long? I mean, which course was here when you...
Well, you were here for Seven Oaks' first.
Not quite that old. 94 was when I got here.
Yeah, not long after that.
So, but back in the heyday of Cedars of Lebanon was really the hot place to go on the weekends and so forth, and where they had a lot of tournaments and so forth. The Oaks was always great, but it was kind of wild back then. There were still a lot of trees. The paths weren't nearly as clear. A lot of mud, a lot of yuck. One little story I like to share and really talk about Ben Northcutt, who he was really the force in making progress in the course management. He had a lot to do, of course, with Seven Oaks and Two Rivers when it got going, and Cedar Hill. And he had this attitude. It was just going to get done the way it was going to get done. Very old school. And everyone would stop, and we'd go pull shrubs or do whatever for a while. And it wasn't a choice. It wasn't like, hey, let's have a work party. No, we're going to go work. And then afterwards, we'll play some disc golf. But that was his way, and he was a wonderful guy, big, tall guy with a dog. I kind of laugh because Bryce reminds me so much of a young version of him, and with the dog and the old Ford truck and so forth. It's like these two are just one left and another joined us, kind of a deal.
Reincarnation.
So, yeah. But anyway, the story I want to tell about Ben. You never knew rhyme or reason. He'd just start tearing into stuff, kind of like Mikey. And we had a real problem on hole 14 going down, not past the hill, past the creek. And of course, what we have for the bridge now. It was a slosh hole. It was the biggest mud pit. You'd step in 6 inches of mud, and it just a bunch of silt. It just sat there. And one day he dammed it up and made it where it was worse. It was a complete mess. And he left it like that for 2 years. I called it Damn Northcutt because it was, why the hell did you do something like this? And one day came out and they cut a trench through it. And that beautiful creek that you see now with all the grass and everything is because of what he did. Had he not allowed for all that silt and everything to accumulate down there, there never would have been the buildup. And now it's probably has the best growing grass area anywhere on the course.
Wow.
Talk about playing the long game.
Yeah.
Well, you got to know what you're doing, too. I mean, that seems like he might have might have learned that somewhere.
Well, he was a teacher, and agriculture. I don't know. I didn't know him all that well to know all the little innuendos about him, but I know he was heavily involved in agriculture and just forestry and that kind of thing.
Well, irrigation's huge in agriculture.
Yeah.
So if you spend some time in agriculture, that's one of those things that you would learn.
And
sure.
he really was the one who started, putting up rail ties and all that to make and hold back the dirt. Because if you look at the course, Seven Oaks, I'm kind of speaking specifically, it has so many gullies and so forth that unfortunately, as erosion happens, the roots are exposed and those trees are going to die. So it's really important that, along with making sure the paths are nice and all that, we really need to shore up around the trees and make sure those roots are covered so that those trees will stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you see a lot of that terracing and stuff all throughout the course.
Yeah, especially
with railroad ties, and that's years and years of work parties.
Yeah.
that you go.
Well, that's an answer to. I've always wondered exactly. I mean, obviously some of them, I thought maybe were just to hold back some land or give some support some places, but just to know that like how bad you were talking about the irrigation there, because that little area between 2 and 3, and then where 18 long kind of plays down in there where the trees are, that can still be kind of rough at times.
Bless you. Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense and mind blown. I would have never guessed that it was all there.
Another thing,
strategically,
that little pathway on hole 5 going to 6, it's cut right into the side of a hill. But when it was first put in, it was just some logs and we were still walking sideways. Now it's perfect little path.
Yeah, and there's multiple options.
Yes.
Like if you're just on one side of the fairway versus the other, there's another path.
Yeah, absolutely.
That one got there by bad shots, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, but I mean, just in the few years that I've been around, I've seen that, especially that hole specifically, but I've seen the course evolve in terms of walking paths and stuff like that. Oh. That whole area is totally different now than it was when I first started playing the course.
Well, it used to look like an alien asteroid hits there or something, because those holes were deep.
Yeah,
and all of that has been filled in. Same way on hole 7. At the Oaks. So, but they're just little things like the irises that were planted on 15, and just little things people have done through the years that have just made it, really. It has the most artistic, I think, things done to it. Even what Freddie did with putting Seven Oaks walking down.
Absolutely.
Hole 11 and there's we lost the apricot trees on 1 and stuff got replanted.
And the
in
willow
there.
tree
And the willow.
just recently.
Yeah.
That was a big loss.
On 1?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Have you not noticed that's gone?
That's why we can go up the middle now.
Yeah.
Because that big, huge tree was
it's
blocking that route.
Yep, gone.
I mean, if you think back and you remember, like, okay, you think it's like, there's no way I can go up the middle right here.
All the flowers on 9 and on 1 that K-Man put in. And
K-Man has just been
the 7 at 7 crew over the years has been huge.
Well, that, of course, is gone. And what I like about it is there are some areas that could be possibly hazardous.
14 long.
Yeah, well, coming out of 18, I mean.
Mike McDaniel.
We should redo 14 long.
4 down. 14.
Telly.
I mean, 14 long definitely has got some, if you're not paying attention and don't know the course for sure.
Yeah.
But 14 long, technically, I believe if you're playing 14 long, there shouldn't be that one there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
For them to go to.
Correct.
So, but yes, you're right on that one. But those things usually get like the trees on out there by 11 as you come around to Carl's hole.
Yeah.
Like just having those trees there, and it's taking time, but in a couple of years, a little bit longer, obviously, those actually will be a safety, feature of the course, but it also is a beautification feature. So some of that stuff I've found that is really, really neat that they've used nature and used beautification to address safety issues.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I think is really neat.
And shout out to, in tune with talking about Ben, that whole work first, play later thing, that's become a part of our culture here. That's become a cultural part of our disc golf community. I mean, that's something that all the course captains and the people that are local to each of the courses, that there's some form of that going on one day of the week. They're
Cedar
all
Hill's
gathering together.
always been like that.
Yeah.
That's the old school crew right there.
Mm-hmm.
And
shout out to Billy Fowler.
Billy and Dave Borders and
Farm
Ken
Fresh
Folger and Farm Fresh, and those guys get out there and get things done. Billy's something else on on Bobcats and moving.
Nope, I think we have guests.
Yeah, hold on one second.
I got it.
Oh.
I'm with them.
Yeah. Billy Fowler on a Bobcat.
Billy Fowler on a Bobcat.
Billy and I.
Yeah,
Billy and I are we're two peas in a pod. We're both dirty guys. Get out there and get it done. And I don't. I sweat and get dirty, and he does too. He does pools. So as a matter of fact, we've been working together.
I've done pools before above ground, and that is dirty, nasty work I do not enjoy. It was rough.
Yep, I remember. I think it was the second Seven Oaks work party that I was ever at. I was out pouring concrete for sleeves with you in the rain, in the pouring ass rain. Yep, Kerns goes hard. Yep.
Well,
hey man, you have to in Tennessee.
You both have stories about me that brought up to me. Of course, Will, you have always brought up that little scenario where I was being a little, well, let's just say annoying. But
hey, I'm plenty annoying.
But what makes me laugh is the fact that when you told me the story about your dog.
And I told him that.
And
you can move that mic around whenever
yeah,
you need to move around too.
He had the dog out there, and apparently I didn't.
Yeah.
I could have cared less about the dog, but the dog crap and the disc golf course, that's a big no-no.
And I when I pulled up at the Oaks last Wednesday for Wednesday night tags to meet Dr. Hoy, Steve caught me as I got out of my car, and it was literally an hour and a half or so before I actually got to Dr. Hoy when we were finally done talking. But I was telling him, and that's kind of how we got on the subject of the podcast. I was like, you should check out the show from last week. I was like, I made a mention about you, and we were talking about etiquette on the show, and how when I was first starting out, I bring my dog, and she was running around, and I didn't keep her on a leash. She was a behaved enough dog that she didn't get far, but she liked to run from time to time. And at the Oaks, at the time wasn't as busy, and everybody was okay with it as long as you were good and you kept up with it. And I did really well for a really long time. Well, she had done her business beforehand, and usually she wasn't a two-timer around, so I figured she was good, and I was wrong. And Steve comes walking up and just, you let your dog shit right there in the course, and I don't care, but you better clean it up, blah, blah, blah. And I was with friends, and I'm somewhat new, but not somewhat new still. And at the time, I was just like, okay. I knew who Steve was, but I guess I don't know if I was on the board yet then or not. But he didn't know who I was, or at least if he had, he didn't realize who I was at the time. But yeah, anyway, so I got chapped, and it was a deserving thing. And when we came around, I saw it, and I actually grabbed it because he made sure to know exactly where it was, so he could inform me, so I knew where it was, and I got it. But it was one of those things I hadn't thought of, or you know what I mean, to be watching for, because I had assumed something else. But it was on the conversation of etiquette, and it's like, no matter what, if you're allowed to do something, or people don't care, you still have to make sure you're on top of it and don't take it for granted, I guess you'd say. But Steve, in a friendly way, but to me, that's one of those things that's like, I was in the wrong, and to this day, I will never say any otherwise, but I was humbled, and I respect Steve for it. So, but I brought it up, and I was like, do you remember that? And he was like, no, not at all.
There's been so many times where I've yelled at somebody for their dog.
I do want to apologize for my little over the top moments for that. Those of you who know me,
let me say something, Steve, just to say it, because of how long you've been here and all the work you've put in. I would have done probably the exact same thing, because I understand what it means to have pride in something you've done, and if somebody were to not disrespect that, and even in a non-meaning way, it's still something that you've put your heart and soul into, and there's no reason you should have to apologize for that at all.
Well, the disc golf courses, and especially Seven Oaks, to me, that's sanctuary. That's my oasis. I come there most days after work, and whether I'm playing or sitting there going over business stuff, it doesn't matter. The fact that I'm there, it's kind of like the safe zone, and I just pull in, and all the things that are bothering me are gone. And whether, I get to see some friends, or whether it's just hang out for a little while and have a couple beers, that's good enough for me. And that kind of warms me up for going home. Not that I have anything to worry about at home, but, you need some of that. You need that time away. It shouldn't just be work, eat, sleep. You got to have, whether you're playing or not. To me, the fact that I play disc golf all the time, and I used to, isn't as important to me as just still being a part of it, and being there. And even if I was hobbled and had to go get around in a wheelchair, I'd still want to get around the place. I wouldn't want to just never walk away from it. I've seen so many guys that have left disc golf that loved it. I don't know if you guys ever knew Mark Norris. Mark Norris was an incredible golfer. I'd never seen anybody who could throw a rock like Mark Norris. I watched him throw a rock about 400 feet, and that was an amazing thing. We were in Florida for a month, and played down there in Miami, and it was amazing to watch this man throw a disc, and he just quit. He was so good at it, he just quit because I guess it wasn't challenging or what have you. Mark Sternberg.
Wow, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, to be like 400 with a rock. I'm like,
yeah, it was amazing.
Crazy.
He threw a rock.
This is boring now. I think I'm done.
Yeah,
I've done everything I came here to do.
Mark Sternberg had a great game. I wouldn't say he was the top dog, but he'd throw 5-6 down, every round without, much effort. And he just kind of gave up on it. I feel bad for those people. And it's like, well, I go out there to play because my skills aren't that fantastic, but I never want to lose the desire to play. I would hate to be so good that I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I also think too, though. I mean, there is a spread of things that make disc golf great. One is the athletic competition, one is the camaraderie in the community, one is there's all these different things about it that make it great. And I think a lot of people kind of gravitate towards different individual things within that spectrum, and that's why something I've always tried to be cognizant of with as we make this community bigger and bring more people into it, make sure that it exists for people in all of those different ways. So, it's all there. But yeah, I totally agree with you. You got to have some kind of a Zen garden. You got to have some kind of a happy place where your mind can just separate from the daily noise and the static.
Absolutely. And I find myself at Cedar Hill a lot more lately, just because it's
a little less
quite
packed.
as played. Yeah, and a lot more challenging. It is quite the. I like to say that it's my nemesis.
I mean, Cedar Hill probably has a lot of people's nemesis. It's definitely my nemesis.
Well,
if I shoot a par round there, I'm usually pretty.
I've never seen par at Cedar Hill.
I've never seen par.
It took me a very long time. I mean, Marcus. I mean, he knows. He's probably got quite a few rounds at par. I've got maybe a handful, but it takes work. And most of those par rounds are not because you didn't bogey. No, it's you probably had a really good day, and you probably still have.
The only reason I've shot under par is because I've been playing against DJ. DJ's gonna shoot well. Yeah. So if I'm playing against anybody good, I'm gonna shoot under par at Cedar Hill. If I'm not, I'm just like you. My nemesis, not gonna shoot well. But if I got some good competition, that's the only time I'm really gonna actually shoot under.
Speaking of Cedar Hill, have you been out there recently with just everything they've done, just to making it beautiful?
It's
far as the
gorgeous
stuff.
out there.
I haven't been out there in the last few weeks.
Well, you haven't been mentioning it, and I want to say that I heard something about a bobcat. And a guy,
Oh, yeah.
and a,
Billy
and a
on a
guy named
bobcat.
Billy Fowler.
Yeah.
Was that
Okay.
addition or subtraction from whole weight team?
It might have been.
Because I know that for sure they want to clean up maybe 2 lines on the finish
Mhm.
on whole weight team.
Did they open it up?
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering.
Oh,
I'm asking.
no.
I'm asking.
No, not that I'm aware of. I wasn't talking about that. I was just
Okay.
talking about just the grass and stuff and the fairways up through the woods and how generally like where they've seen.
Like the intercourse?
No, oh shoot, let me think of it. One going up 13, no 12 going uphill.
Yeah.
No,
That needs a little work.
excuse me, 11. The grass that they've got growing up,
Oh yeah.
you know, where they finally put that path into the right, and just how much grass is actually growing up the hill
That's a
and making it a fairway. That's a tough thing, but I just didn't know if y'all had seen how much
I hadn't been
how
out there
good
in
it
the
looks
last few weeks.
recently.
They try and replant that every year. It's unfortunate. It just doesn't get enough.
It's not enough light
to really take hold.
Well, it
Cedar
looks
Hill's
good
a
right
tough-
now, anyway.
Yeah, it's a tough one for that. But
But
I love the
speaking
place.
of, Cedar Hill crew
Yeah.
and all those guys, that has carried on that tradition, that Ben Northcutt and everything from Cedars of Lebanon, because now you look at like Lance Kirby, who became a part of the Cedar Hill group, and then he became the course steward out at White House, totally transformed that park.
beautiful.
And he's got the same philosophy there. Those guys meet there at the designated day every week, and they work for a couple hours, and then they play. And that course always looks amazing.
And straight
And
rail-
that's how our system works here, and that's how we're able to continue to grow and add courses, and then not be neglecting any. And that's where, when you feel like baskets haven't moved or things haven't been updated or maintained at a certain course, it's usually because whoever's got the key to the baskets, whoever's in charge of that course as the course captain, is kind of in transition, and we're trying to find the right person to take a role. So, but when that system is working, it's flawless.
Well, you have those that exactly like that, where you don't have somebody there, or you have a metro park who does it, and they don't have people there who know what goes on with disc golf, so they don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But you have a dedicated group of people who do everything that Metro doesn't do,
Sure.
and have constant eyes on it, and they do the general stuff, and then they make improvements and general things like that. And then when there's eyes on it, so that when a big need or a big project comes up, then you can come to the club, and the club can put money and resources and manpower behind it with a work party, and you can have that kind of big kind of a scheduled help for stuff too. But that's how it works, and that's because of people taking that method of leadership and always, no, we're going to work for a little bit and then we'll play.
Yeah, I know the Cedar Hill group, they like to get together at like 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and this old boy just isn't available. Not that early on a Sunday morning.
How far after Seven Oaks or how long after Seven Oaks went in did Cedar Hill go in? What was the gap there?
Actually, it went Two Rivers was after Seven Oaks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And again, that was the old course, and I want to say 96, 97 for Cedar Hill. I'm terrible with
When you say
years.
96, 97, to me, 96, 97 was not that long ago. Like, just in my head.
In your mind, it doesn't sound like it was that
seem
long
like
ago.
it should
Yeah.
be, but then when you think about it, I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
You remember what year it is? It's 2021,
Yeah,
and then you remember,
right.
oh man, I'm older than crap.
Yeah. I just came to the realization that I've been in Nashville almost half my life.
Yeah, that's something. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Your kind of claim to fame for me was like what somebody told me that. Yeah, he was in Karate Kid.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
Did
boy.
you not know this?
No.
Okay, so
I was not going to
I
bring it
learn
up.
things all the time.
I knew this was coming.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, dude.
I got to get it out of the way. We can't have you on a podcast and not talk about it.
Karate Kid.
Because there's a lot of people that listen that listen or watch the podcast and are not familiar with you, and so, but that's the what's perfect about having you on the show is to get these stories down recorded, and they're there for everybody to have
Enjoy.
in perpetuity. But yeah, that was the thing, is like you grew up in LA, and your stepdad, really your dad, is he was involved with stunt acting, and he was a trainer, like an instructor.
Okay, here it goes.
Yeah, this is all. Yeah, this is good stuff. This is podcast gold right here.
Popcorn. Sit
My
back, relax.
my stepfather's name's Hubie Kerns. He was the stunt double for the original Batman, Adam West. Okay, so technically, I am the son of Batman.
No way.
So and I have been the Cape Crusader before. I have worn the actual suit.
The original one?
The
From the
original
show?
one.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Stank and all from Hubie's stunts in it, and old gray leotards and all. I grew up out there, and I think it's like here. If you're not in the music business, you know somebody who is, and, you know, that type of thing. So I was fortunate. I grew up in that industry. My mother trained dogs for movies. She trained the dog on Little House on the Prairie and Benji and the Waltons, and I mean the list goes on and on. But bottom line, you know, I grew up on movie sets, and therefore I was also invited to be on certain shows. I was also a kid on Little House on the Prairie. That really shows my age.
Bro,
That's so
I have watched
awesome,
some Little Houses
man.
on the
That
Prairie.
is So awesome.
TBS.
1974, yeah. That's just grew up on that, and decided I was going to get into it. So I thought, but I realized that movie sets are just not as glamorous as they're made out to be. There's a lot of sitting around doing nothing, being yelled at, and it just wasn't for me. But I enjoyed my little time, and yes, I worked on Karate Kid. I've worked. I only mention that one because it is, you know, they got a pretty good headshot of me when he gets his leg broke and two guys come to get him, and one of them's me. And I'm in the next scene right before the, you know, wax on thing.
He does his hand around his thing.
Yeah. So a little bit of claim to fame. I loved Pat Morita as that character once I saw it. But to me, he was Arnold from Happy Days.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's
people
who he
forget
was
about
to
that.
me.
That does people like don't talk about that or think about that.
Yeah,
I loved Happy Days. I remember I used to watch the Nick at Night reruns of that. Like during the summer when I'd be off school or whatever, it'd be like certain nights of the week I'd be watching Happy Days.
It was like the shows you wouldn't be dead letting your friends catch you watch. Like, no, I wasn't watching that. Just turn
Look
the
at
TV
all
on.
of those people now, dude. Like,
Oh, I loved them.
and Ron Howard, like the stuff that he's
it's just-
directed, and then you remember that he's
He's amazing. Even his
We could go
daughter.
down this road.
yeah.
Yeah. So and since we went there, actually, the Karate Kid was not my best part ever. If you've ever seen a little stupid show called Silver Spoons with Rick Schroeder, I got to growl at, the closest I ever came to acting. I got to growl at Rick Schroeder in front of a live audience. And
You got to growl at him?
I did. The scene. It was kind of one of those funny things. First day of high school for him. He's gotten thrown in the trash can and beaten around, kicked around, etc. And end of the day, he's had it out, and a cute little girl comes walking up to the little locker next to him. He's got a big smile, and she's smiling back, and her boyfriend, me, with the football in hand, cut off shirt, you know, school jock, comes walking up, and I put my arm around the girl and I growl at him and turn away. And it took every ounce of energy I had not to bust up laughing
I could only imagine.
in front of a live audience, you know.
And now you growl at kids at disc golf courses.
Oh, I guess.
In his defense, I was definitely not a child when this happened.
So that's my movie story. I'm all done with that.
Get off my lawn. And you said you came to Nashville from California in '94
Well,
by way of
Strange.
somewhere.
yeah, by way of my ex-girlfriend at the time moving down here to get away from me and me following her down. Now we've been married since '96, so that just goes to show it was a worthwhile deal to come on down. my lovely wife Cassie, who I want to make mention of. She too was quite the disc golfer in her day, and has
Golf snaps for Cassie. The disc golf wives.
Yeah, she was a golfer, and there were a group of let's see, Wendy, Kat, Cassie, I think there was another one, but these girls would play all the events, and they always won because there was so desperate to get girls involved.
There were
girls,
so few.
Yeah, they always were giving out stuff. Even at I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Soda Bastards. It was a group of rejects. And Ralph Moffat, if you're out there, I'm specifically talking to you.
Calling people out.
Scott Eckert and the groups of them. They would get together and have like a men only kind of thing. But one year they allowed girls to play, and I mean they pull their pants down and show their ass. That was just part of you do anything you could to mess up your fellow golfers. That was the whole Soda Bastard principle. This group was like Steve Phelan, rest in peace. Steve's Spangler, Tim Spangler, and a lot of old guys that are gone now. That I like to make mention of them just because they were really a positive part of the old golf, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. Sure, you had your serious rounds, but we had a lot of laughs, a lot of yucks. So,
Yeah, I had not heard of that group.
yeah,
That's
Soda
pretty awesome.
Bastards.
Any relation to cola? Was that like the beginnings of cola? Soda and cola.
Well, it's kind of cool because they had like what you would maybe consider like, the he says the rejects. So we have like the trolls of things nowadays. So
well, I mean that's one thing that you definitely have to say about disc golf is we got some characters.
Oh yeah.
I mean we are a motley crew,
and they're ballsy because everybody gets offended nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's even worse to have to to be that guy now. So props to you guys.
Oh
yeah. And I don't know, man. And I've caught wind before for kind of being a defender of certain trolling behavior, but it's like, to me, when I see it, it's so obviously a joke. It's so obviously like an intentional, big, elaborate joke that it would be silly to take it seriously. And you see so many people get so like upset and take it super seriously. And I don't know, man. If that seems unfortunate, I'm kind of like, hey, like calm down. Let's eat some fruit and just like breathe about this. It's not that big a deal, but. It's
it's part of the times. I mean, unfortunately, that when we live in a society now where comedians have to apologize for either before or after their shows because of they're like, hey, I'm not this way. It's just funny.
Yeah,
that's not that something's wrong. Something's really wrong with the way people take offense in that sense. So
yeah.
They even, like I said, love them. Like
but we do our fair amount of trash talking in the Nashville area.
They still, in a sense, bring attention to disc golf.
Yeah. It's funny how every area has those groups of people that pop up too. Like, that's another thing Stokely talks about in his book is the PDL crew. And like they were like the bad boys of disc golf in California, and they would go to tournaments and be upstarts and rabble rousers and cause trouble, and the tournament directors were always looking at them like when stuff would happen. So they had like a shirt that they would wear if somebody made the final nine, and it was like they had like all chipped in to make one T-shirt for the crew, and if they were on video coverage or a final nine, they would get the shirt. And then if somebody did get on final nine or won, they would get the bed in the hotel room. Everybody else slept on the floor.
Oh, trust me, Seven Oaks or just Nashville in general was the outlaw of disc golf for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
Still, the PDGA,
to some extent,
and to the PDGA, I say, there you go, because that's exactly what I think about you.
What happened?
I told myself that this evening I was going to be nice and not bring up ugliness. So
Well, we don't have
won't.
to be ugly,
Well, yeah.
but I'm
'cause
I'm
it's
incredibly
ugly to me.
I'm incredibly curious.
Well, I mean,
Maybe off air.
for the listeners, I mean, you are an outspoken opposer of the PDGA. You are opposed to the organization and their and what they do, and you have several reasons and several stories that you can cite for this. And we've had many conversations about it, but I think it's. I mean, I think all opinions and perspectives are worth.
Well,
I mean,
giving
all,
some shine
all
to.
I can say is hypocrisy shall not be tolerated. If you're going to be a hypocrite, fine. Just stay the hell out of my face. So you want to talk, you put other people down and say that they're, tell on them and take away their ability to throw tournaments and be tournament directors. I have nothing but the double FU for you. So
Yeah, okay.
enough said. And that's
Yeah.
to Levon Wolf and all the rest of them
Gotcha.
specific
Shots fired.
jackasses.
Yeah.
Well,
There you go.
I mean, in the world of anything that people care about, there are going to be people who disagree and people who
Well,
who
I mean,
don't. And like you said, I'm of the belief you are entitled to your opinion regardless of what that is.
Absolutely.
And so, people, that's the way it works. And so,
Like I
what
said,
if-
I didn't want to get deep into it, but
No,
yeah, the fact that it brought up,
I was
fine.
unaware.
I'll,
I was unaware.
I'll say my piece, and now I'm done.
Well, I mean, it's a disc golf podcast. We're going to talk for a while.
Sure.
We're not going to not mention the PDGA, and
like I said, I was unaware, but I'm, like I said,
that stems from very specific things, though. It's not, you had a situation where somebody ran a tournament, and the PDGA kind of put them on blast in a public way for certain behavior that they were engaging in during the administration of said event.
Oh, okay.
And those who brought the accusations are or were people who were involved themselves. So the hypocrisy is just unacceptable. Sure. And just because they wanted to turn it into
I had something.
and then to push somebody else out who was doing something good. And I name Larry Odin in this. I will speak. I'll say his name. Larry Odin used to run tournaments for us.
Pull
out
that
here.
mic up a little bit to you.
My bad.
No, you don't have to lean forward.
Back.
You can sit back comfortably. Just grab the boom, and you can kind of move the boom.
Larry
around.
Odin ran tournaments and did a great job at it. And somebody took offense, and Levon Wolf and another gentleman out of Huntsville, and then it got ugly, and they banned Larry from running tournaments, and it just, I've been around long enough to see that all the tournaments were very casual. Up front, they'd say these are the rules, but their mentality was very casual. And then one day they flipped the switch and said, we're going to be, we're going to make examples of people we don't feel are living up to our standards. And that's what happened. And so, yeah, we became a rebel city to the PDGA with that. And I still carry that torch.
So, it's safe to say that you're not thrilled with us hosting a national tour here.
I could carry.
The way Steve has put it.
Real, just want to know.
The way Steve has put it to me before is, I love what you're doing, but I hate what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's exactly true.
That's
That's exactly true. Because to me, it's all about the recreational end of it. I come out and I throw a few dollars at it, but this, that, and the other. But I'm just here to have fun.
Sure.
And so in my mind, I represent the guys that just, and girls that want to come out and just have a good time, that don't necessarily aren't out there to be the best disc golfer that ever was, or what have you, or got to beat this guy, so forth. I'm just glad to have the experience.
Sure, absolutely.
I always say the same thing about disc golf. It's like the ultimate sport because you can choose like your competitive level.
Yeah.
You can go out and be recreational. You can go out to tournaments and play, intermediate or advanced, or you can take it next step and go to pro, and better or ruin your life.
It's true. So true. I
There's
do.
a lot on the road and a lot of people not getting paid for doing what they're doing and doing it for the love of it. And at that point, they're doing a double duty. They're actually playing pro, but they're also playing it for the love because they're not making a lot of money playing pro.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I do want to point out that even though, and this is, in my opinion, a testament is still who you are and what you love about disc golf and the community. He's still, no matter what the sanctioning or what the event is, he's always the first one to show up and volunteer. And you've done that for the Music City for us. I mean, and so the community is obviously where his heart lies. And I just wanted to point that out. Because
Yeah, and if you
always
guys have never
volunteering for that.
have no idea who Steve is, this is the first time you've ever seen him or heard him or listened, or gotten a chance to hear him talk about stuff. Like, you have seen his work. I mean, you play disc golf in Nashville. You've seen benches that he's made. You've seen bridges that he's made.
Yeah.
You've played. You've thrown to baskets that are sitting in sleeves that he's poured concrete for. You know, this is the kind of stuff. And you know, what other reason to have a podcast or to do a podcast for us than to highlight, you know, what really goes on? This is how disc golf operates, and this is the stuff that people don't see, and this is why you don't get as many people that show up to volunteer, is because it's not visible. You know, like, who are the people that are out there doing the work? And let's take a moment to shout out all those guys, and for somebody like you to come on and tell all the stories of all that, and you've been there to work right alongside them. You know, that's something for us to kind of showcase for all these people that are new and coming into the club and into our disc golf community, so they can see, you know, this is how things grow and get better. Is when people new come into the sport, they don't just come in and play and have fun. We all contribute, and we all put our backs into it.
Yeah.
So.
And in that, I have not, it's not like I've been to every little work party and this, that, and the other. I pick, and, you know, when I can get there and so forth. After 26 years, you know, you're going to have a few things added up that you've done. I
think he's got, Jay, I think his mic is turned inside the shock mount so that it's kind of pointing to the side of him toward you. Yeah, there you go.
Is that better?
That's better. Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, my bad.
We do it all the
Oh,
time.
we can hear you now. Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
There he is.
Oh, I
Look at that.
hear the
deep
difference?
There it goes.
There we
Yeah,
go.
they kind of move around
Okay.
there.
You want yourself to sound like that, but you can still pull the boom mic.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with that mic. You just grab a hold of it and move wherever you want.
not used to talking into.
Oh yeah, and
recording.
it's weird for everybody.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever heard my voice recorded, to be honest with you.
Most
Really?
people don't like their voice. You know, I'm not a big fan of
I
mine.
hate mine.
Same here.
So,
No, you guys got great voices.
See,
Especially,
I've actually heard that, and same thing. But it's like, to me, I'm like, ugh.
I mean, we've all talked.
That's what
We
I
talked
sound
about
like.
that too. Is like all of us can listen back to the show, and everybody, like, I hate the sound of my voice, but I don't mind the sound of anybody else's voice. It's just mine that I hate,
yeah,
and everybody seems to agree with that.
Trust me, you don't want to hear me in the shower.
But it's funny because how much that translates into like the rest of the show, because like some people get totally weirded out, camera and microphone and lights and all that stuff, and they just whoa yeah
what am I going to talk about?
yeah,
Oh
no,
Yeah.
my goodness.
it's kind of difficult.
Too focused
Just
on
breathe.
the.
We
Yeah,
want to talk about disc golf. Your favorite thing to talk about. That's why we're talking to you about it.
yeah.
It's like not you particular, Steve, but just in general when people come on, and we try to make it casual and conversational. But like you guys said, when you shove a microphone in your face and some
Sure.
headphones on and some light in your eyes. What did you call it? Was it 8,000, 6,000 K?
No, 6,000.
9,600.
6,000K.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
The old
it's
light
harsh.
spectrum.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
and then you
fucking-
got a little 3,000K right there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's all for.
That's for
all-
Marcus,
That's my
'cause-
color.
Yeah.
That's my color.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
So
I
you look
get
at the
it.
screen right here, like you see, like that's the only reason I got like that slightly bright
It's-
salmonish puck, like matching my shirt color.
It's a blur to me.
If he and I are in the same light,
Yeah.
and you can see him well, I am like reflecting back at the camera.
I'll bet.
It's like just like an angel. I got this glow, this white glow.
Oh man.
So we supplement for Marcus.
Well, I
And
want
we
to
know
throw
nothing
something
about
out there.
lying, most of
You
us.
know, you guys have stepped up and made this so much more than it ever was. I look back on the fun times we had, but it was all, you know, kind of in the closet almost. Disc golf was the big secret.
Right.
Now it's everywhere.
Cat's out of the bag.
Oh yeah, and people are coming to it in droves. You can barely play a round of golf without having
To wait.
yeah, and so and that's what's been so great is that all these new courses have popped up. So it just allows, kind of the field to diversify and get out and do different things at different courses. Of course, we talk heavily about Seven Oaks because we spend a lot of time there. It's kind of like the nucleus of where disc golf comes from, but it just seems to be the place everyone congregates. It's all over the place, and there's all kinds of great players playing different.
It's an interesting thing that our home course is the most popular disc golf course in Tennessee. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
you look at any stats, disc golf course review or UDisc or any of that, and the most logged rounds in Tennessee happen at Seven Oaks. So,
Especially with all the tournaments we have going on throughout the week. I can remember playing back in my heyday of playing like a lot of disc golf, like 5 to 6 rounds a week. I would come to Seven Oaks and play the dubs or Wednesday night tags or whatever. And it was definitely dubs because I would pick Steve Kerns like religiously. I think we got partnered up every time for like, I think it was like 2 months straight. And it got so bad, man. I just went, like we had cards. So I think they put cards on the table, right?
I feel for you, man.
They had cards on the table, and I one day I just like picked up my card and I said, "Put it on my head, Kerns. Are we partners?" Like, yeah. I was like, okay.
Wow.
Hey, I am a decent doubles player. I may not be the best singles disc golfer, but man,
well, there's an opportunity to play with strategy and kind of game within the game.
Exactly. You get me somebody who can drive real good. I've got an upshot that's pretty darn good. Sidearm flick. And I can flick a putter in there. Not all the time, but I'm damn accurate. I'll blast those chains. Ain't no thing. Yeah. So I may not be able to throw it as far as I used to. I just had an ace a month or two ago. So
that's awesome.
I feel good.
Which one did you get?
Hole 12. Got it with a leopard. I snapped a little backhand out there. There were some people walking up on the side. So I threw the disc and I see the people. Oh, I'm sorry. I threw that disc. Ching!
Whoa! Everybody look at the basket. Man, 12 is that one too at the Oaks when you first roll through. You're like, that's the one. And I can get that.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see 12 is the number.
I've ever aced it.
But if you get down there and it ain't off a skip and you don't hit it, man,
you know what makes
it's
it worse?
funny because that's my first.
What makes it worse? I've never aced that one. It makes it worse is like the only time I've ever hit basket was on a flick shot.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's a tight flick too.
I
that's an unconventional throw on that hole.
Yeah.
I aced it twice in 1 month with the same disc. December 1997.
Yeah.
I still remember.
3:23 p.m.
with a green HD Hawk. I hit it on December 11th and December 31st. So, hey, that was...
was that back when they had the bush in front of the hole?
Yeah. Oh, on 12?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Because I remember somebody cutting it down during the work party they weren't supposed to.
Okay. Now,
you know what I'm talking about now.
Wait a minute. If you're talking about what I think you're talking about, I was accused...
Uh-oh.
Now, this story has made the circulation, and I just want to put it to rest now. Lies.
Slander that has been leveled against me.
I am the last person in the world that wants to cut down a tree.
Yeah.
And apparently, there was a tree on hole 12 to the right. There's a row of bushes,
straight row. Yep.
But there was a cedar tree that was there, and apparently it got cut down. Now, I used to travel from here to South Dakota and work on the Indian reservations. So I'd be gone 2 to 3 months doing that stuff. So I don't know who started it. Apparently, when I left, that tree fell, got cut. It was cut down. And I was accused of such nonsense.
Treachery.
I would never cut a tree. I just don't do it. It's against my religion.
I gotcha.
And as a practicing Presbyterian, that is a serious religion.
Well,
you don't do those kind of things.
Super glad you confessed because I was talking about the bushes, but I'm glad you talked about the tree because now I know like 2 stories now.
Well, the bushes were planted. The tree was cut, but it survived for like 6 or 7 years. Turned horizontal, it was kind of like a row of bushes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And then they planted the honeysuckle there, and course, the tree eventually died, but now the honeysuckle's there. Now, if you want to talk about who cut down stuff on hole 12,
All right.
let's talk to Roger.
That's the name we didn't bring up. Okay.
Okay.
Now
I
we
need to
got
talk
it.
at the people planting honeysuckle at the course because that is
Now we're
not good
now
for
we're
people
getting
who are
where I thought we
allergic
should be
to
going.
stinging insects.
Oh no, he says we're driving them to drink. We're talking about Roger.
My buddy
I know where
Roger.
we're going now.
Well,
Yeah. I won't say his last name out of respect. No, that's not true. It's because I can't remember it right now.
but anyway, Roger.
Yeah.
Cut down some bushes.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, who planted the honeysuckle? 'Cause
So,
I'm serious. People who are allergic, we could die. You got bees out there. You just trying to attract them.
I think it was honeysuckle. The bottom line is this: Roger, who I was just talking about, he was told it was all right to trim said bushes, except he cut 3 feet off the bushes.
Like
Well,
literally,
that's
it totally
trim
changed.
his
It
perspective.
totally changed the whole.
It
like,
did.
Like hands down. Like because before you're thinking, okay, not only do I got to nail the shot, but I got to avoid hitting the bushes because you'll be left like 15, 20 feet in front of the tee box.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like 30 feet in front of the tee box when you first get off.
Right.
Yeah. Now it's like just just throw the hyzer.
He got permission to trim and
Yeah.
took liberty
Oh yeah.
big time.
The only thing sucks about like people who do stuff like that, they usually don't come back and play the horse that much.
No, in all fairness, he had a lot going on and hasn't played as much. He used to be religious about coming out
Okay.
on Tuesday nights and so forth. He's a great guy.
What happened to the one on 14? The leaning pine tree. Did it just fall eventually, or did somebody cut that?
I know you're talking about like
The
halfway
one that
down the
was like-
fairway.
yeah,
it was on the
it
left
was,
hand
like,
side, and they
hung
leaned
out.
over to the right.
It was the one that would
it
always
made it
catch
really
you
tough
right
for that
there.
shot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always wanted to see right and left side come together.
Come
and make
together.
it. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
thought that
tunnel
would
there.
be just awesome.
Yeah.
I think that was the whole to have something like that happen.
Yeah, I think that can happen. Maybe it can happen on 15. Maybe I don't know.
There's a lot of
Did we trim that at all? 15?
Oh yeah, I mean they tighten up the edges. I mean it's
Yeah,
I want to know where hole 15 just comes from, because you have all of Seven Oaks, and then hole 15 is just like this wonderment that just happens to be like a
On the
geological
rocks.
difference.
yeah, it
Right.
There's
kind
a
of looks
lot of
like
that.
an alien moonscape or something.
Yeah.
there's a lot of that all throughout Antioch. I know out at Mill Ridge, there's a whole section of the property out
Exactly
there
like
that's
Mill
on
Ridge.
that stone, and it's like there's
What
cactuses growing out
happened?
there.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think on hole 15 they had more cactus than somebody.
That's why
cut
they
them
call
down.
Yes.
15 Little Texas.
Well,
Right.
I was going to say the one at Mill Ridge, that area where the cactus are, that's like a protected area. Because we have to be real careful.
Yeah,
Have
that's
you
what-
guys seen all the fossils embedded in the stone?
I know where they are.
Yeah, I've
It's
seen some of them.
amazing the amount of fossils on 15.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah. Same thing. I imagine if you were to go out to this corner of Mill Ridge and kind of look around at the stone, there's probably all sorts of different fossils in there and stuff. And probably arrowheads back there.
Well, I had heard once when I first started playing at the Oaks, maybe you can confirm this, that they found like fossils out in that area of the park, like that where Seven Oaks sits.
well,
Is that true?
of course, there's fossils embedded right into the stone. One of the
Well.
things that stood out is on hole 1, the area in the center was protected.
Yep. I know what you're
because
talking about.
we have a crustacean that lives
Yep.
out there that is rare, a small crawdad type
Oh, okay.
critter that was originally why they made it where you should not
That was a man.
shoot a mando through there. Now of course that's changed, and I don't know if anybody's
it finally
followed
dried
up
up.
on that.
I think it finally dried up because, like, when I first started playing disc golf, hole 1 was religiously
could-
wet
Yeah.
between
could
the
not-
basket all the
there's
way
a
through
spring.
that little middle area. And I wonder if when we added the rocks right there, did it kind of? I mean, for me, it should have pulled up, but it seemed like it maybe have sucked it up. I don't know.
There's still a spring there.
Yeah.
There's still a spring on 1, and
it's still wet, but it's
yeah.
not. I mean, I don't know. And we've been losing trees down there right and left too, so hard to tell.
Okay, so we've talked about Cedar Hill, and we've talked about Two Rivers a little bit, and of course Seven Oaks. But I'll tell you, I am so sad that Cedars of Lebanon has just been basically abandoned.
Mm-hmm. True.
It used to be the hub of where we got together, had tournaments, barbecues, the whole thing. And now it's just kind of been let to its own demise.
I feel like it's one of those that it's so far out there now, and you have so many other choices. It just like I've played it one time, and I've been playing disc golf almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
I played it twice,
And
I remember some of the holes, but just thinking like, man, I just never want to
it's
travel out there.
I've always enjoyed playing.
Yeah.
I've played out there several times, and I've always enjoyed it. I think at some point there was some sort of an issue about, the group that was kind of local to Cedars of Lebanon didn't want to be involved in the larger goings on of other groups and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, there was a time when the Nashville area disc golf was kind of cliquish, and it was tribal and separated by groups of courses or courses in the singular. But
gotcha.
I think that was one where there was so much time that went by where there was one group that was local to Cedars of Lebanon, and they're just not as
Well, we've had a lot of deaths, and
Yeah.
there are a few people that passed away that were very involved with Cedars of Lebanon, and so that's kind of, I think, why it's kind of
So
That makes
dissipated a little bit.
been
John
pushed
Burlingame
under.
and many people that we've had on the show have talked a lot about playing at Cedars of Lebanon in the early days.
Larry Oden, who a really fantastic guy. He had his own personal course out in that direction and would throw little tournaments and so forth. But unfortunately, his son Zach passed away this last year, and he has just kind of dropped out. And I really miss the guy because spectacular man, did a lot for disc golf, and a lot of tragedy in his life. We lost.
I did get to play his place one time.
Did you? Mm-hmm. It's a fun place to play. But he lost his son, he lost his ex-wife, so it's been hard for him to step up and want to do anything more. But he has that land, and he throws some fun. We've had some fun times out there. You get old Brian out there, and he'll grill up stuff, and it's just
Those baskets are something else.
Oh, yeah.
And his basket workshop, right in the middle of the course, where it's just all the parts laying around.
Yeah.
And it's like when you first see it, when you pull into the course for your first time, you see that spot, and it's like just a big junk pile on a farm.
Oh.
But then after you've played it, you're like, I see what's going on. Those are all the parts for where these baskets came from.
I donated a basket just so they would have another basket. It wasn't the best, but it was something.
But that was another carryover. I mean, that was that specifically as a private course. I mean, obviously it kind of has a different kind of operation, but the one time I went out there, it was by invitation, and that was the whole arrangement. We went out there and everybody worked, and then we played.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if any of you were around when Stonehenge was here.
I had never got to see Stonehenge.
No.
Stonehenge.
I've heard. This is not,
Okay.
correct me if
I've
I'm
heard
wrong.
a
Is
lot
this
about
Pegram? Is this in the Pegram
This was
area?
in Pegram.
Okay.
Now, this course was built by a single man, Mark Sternberg, who a very old good friend of mine. Anyway, he just decided he was going to cut this course into his land, which up and down and this and that and back and forth. He had one of the first hanging baskets I'd ever seen, and he put tires in. He cut, and it was all one man did all this work. Mark's just a hard-working human being. He's a motor that just won't stop. And the course was there in I think it was the 2001
Music City
World.
Open, or the
Worlds.
Am Worlds. That was what it was.
Am
Am
Worlds
Worlds. It was in one of
were
the.
held at his house, at his property, and beautiful setup. Unfortunately, it was divorce and blah blah blah. But he was one of the guys I was talking about that loved the sport, but now he has a bar level 3 in Murfreesboro, and I don't know if he's picked up a disc in years.
Yeah.
So we get older, and it's just not. Everybody's a little different. I hope to die with a disc and a joint in mouth. So
I mean, hey, that would be one hell of a way to go out.
yeah,
Now there's a hole. One of the inner holes or something like that. Is kind of supposed to be a dedication or tribute to.
it sure is. Inner one is, they named it Little Stonehenge, and I sent a picture of that to Mark, and he got a big old kick out of that. And it has a very a very benign small version of what he had. He had stuff that went down 100 feet in a ravine and back up, kind of a thing. So hole one inner is called Little Stonehenge, and I look at it like, okay, that's cute. And like I said, I took a picture and sent it to him, and he got a big kick out of it.
Have I gotten a chance to show you the new board, the new course sign for Two Rivers?
Mm-mm.
Have I not gotten to show you that?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh boy.
Well, there's
I might throw it up in the break on the video, but before you leave, if you remind me, I'll show you. I've got a picture of it on my phone, and it's beautiful, and it's got all the spot with all these like brass but like gold placards all at the bottom of it with names of the original whole sponsors and the people that built the course.
Oh, okay.
And it's got room for more placards and stuff, and it's really, really nice looking with the map and everything on it. They're just looking at getting the right structure up there to put it up. But
was the cat out of the bag on the thing over there too?
Do what?
Is the cat out of the bag with some of the other stuff at Two Rivers that was possibly being planned?
I haven't heard anything new about it, so I don't know how that's developed. But yeah, I know that there are going to be some additions. Hopefully, at least a few holes they were planning on. But that's again, Zach Evans has recently, him and his family bought a house out closer to Springfield, like the far end of Goodlettsville. And so he hasn't been able to be as involved with the stuff at Two Rivers. That's mainly become Ruthie and Kyle Copeland now. So, but yeah, as far as I know, that's probably still in the works. But talk about, like the way that disc golf in Nashville has changed over the years. Talk about a course that's changed multiple times, Two Rivers.
Two Rivers it's kind of a sad scenario, being that it's in such a public place.
Yeah.
And I personally am not one that thinks that course necessarily needs. I think it needs to move, only because that there's too much interference from the public there. People are constantly going back and forth. You can arrange the holes however you want, but you're looking at a situation where somebody's going to get hurt, and I'm not too thrilled about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. What's the whole old 18? The one beside, was it the park?
The playground area.
Playground area.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've sent a couple discs over to that playground area. Just
and
sorry.
It's the big thing is the park, the thoroughway, the greenway, yeah.
Yep, the greenway. Sure.
And so you have bicyclists, you have skaters, you have runners, and so forth. And let's face it, it's a neat place to go run across the river and go to Shelby Park.
Right. Sure.
And so it's an integral part of Nashville's transit system. And so to put the discs out there and take the risk, I don't know if that's the greatest concept. I hate to lose a disc golf course.
Have you played out there since the most recent redesign?
I have. And it's a beautiful redesign. I really like the layout. I think it's great. But at the same time, I worry about people getting hurt because it's there. And people that are, smart are going to avoid throwing when somebody's running through, but you can't always get that.
Well, I do think that. Sorry, Marcus, you go ahead.
Well, the biggest problem I have when I play at that course, I played at that course, I guess, all three redesigns from Jonathan Hyde to Zach. And the biggest thing I've seen is when people are using those pavilions and their families come out and they're just like gathering in the middle of the field and they have no clue what's going on. Yeah. They're from some other country and they have no clue what disc golf is, and they get out there and all their kids are out in the middle of the field. And you're like, hey, we're going to throw these discs. And they're like, hey, nice to meet you. And I'm like, do you know what this is? And they're like,
no.
I do think that has been eased a little bit by the most recent redesign. One, in the way that hole one now starts at the back of the park closer to Briley, because that kind of separates the Disc Golf Central area away from the multi-use spot where hole one was right next to one of the playgrounds, and then when you're pulling in, you're right there with all the people that are there walking their dogs and going to the playgrounds and doing all that stuff. Plus, you've got the skate park, you've got the wave country right there. So it's a big multi-use space. I think that what the most recent redesign did some things that kind of eased the risk of it and made it a little bit more viable. But I think that one of the things that was good about that redesign is that Zach and the people that were working on it were aware of, like, the spot that Two Rivers is going to fill in the disc golf scene in Nashville is as a beginner friendly course, as like a place that's not incredibly challenging, where people at a more beginning level in the sport can go out there and have competitive events and learn how to play and that kind of stuff. And it's not going to be one of those big, highly, trafficked for disc golf. So,
No.
And I think that the way it exists now, it can be that. But I think there are a lot of people that are really unhappy with the redesign that want something out of Two Rivers that it just can't be.
I
see what you're saying. I see.
I'm not unhappy with it. I'm just sad that here is all this effort being put into a course that it's really the public domain, and I think those baskets could be put somewhere more special than just Two Rivers. I think Two Rivers is its own little world, and people use it the way they're going to use it, and it's party central, and you get the pavilions are used like we were saying, and you're going to have people that are going to be in the way no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they're, I'm gonna have to get to that in a minute. That's the wife going, "Where are you?"
Well, we usually take a break about an hour in, so we're getting close to that. So
all I'm getting at is that Two Rivers is a wonderful concept, but unfortunately, the reality that's there's so many people. La Mirada in California,
yeah,
same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here is a multi-use place that the course is, world-renowned. But unfortunately, you got people out there wanting to picnic and this, that. So it's just not necessarily a great place to have a disc golf course.
Or is it just not necessarily a great place to picnic? Because,
Well,
you got to look at it from that spot. I mean, like, hey, like, this course has been here. Hey, this and that.
Well,
like,
and this is the reason, and this is part of the whole conversation about pay to play. And you see with there's a big resurgence in private courses in the last 5 to 10 years. Like, a lot more disc golf is happening at private courses, privately owned. And I think you're just, unfortunately, because, and this is something that's pointed out anytime somebody that was around for the early days, they will say, when the only way to get people to play and to get people to know about disc golf was to put it in the middle of a public park where everybody could see people playing it. But then technology changed, and it got a little bit more dangerous for people to be around it. And now you're still in that zone where most of your courses are in public parks. And so the ones that don't really present a safety hazard are ones that have a lot of land that isn't being used by other amenities. And that is really hard to come by. Not a lot of major cities, especially in the country, have as much plentiful park space and green space as Nashville does.
Yes.
And so the availability of that kind of land underneath a metro park's jurisdiction and ownership is just getting smaller and smaller and fewer and far between. So you're going to see more people that have private land building courses, hosting events, but there's going to, and I think, honestly, my side of that argument, I think that's going to make everything better.
I know it's going to make everything better. You look at Ogwood, it is a prime example of how you can take something that's private and make it a very viable, place to play.
Yeah.
And, hats off to Philip and being willing to, have the tournaments out there and what he's had to go through just to have them out there. And it's such a relief to have a place that you can just go be yourself, camp, do whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
And nobody's messing with you. Where the other venues are, you got to wonder, God, if I have a beer, am I going to get, a ticket or arrested or some other BS? I love going out to Ogwood and hanging out there and just being myself, doing my thing, whether I'm playing or not.
Yeah.
Many times I've gone out there and just to hang out and say hello and so forth, and not necessarily play the tournament. So that it gives a much broader concept of what you can do with any kind of a tournament or just get together and make it more personable, which I like necessary as opposed to a big event and fine, have your events. But Bud Hill's another example. Love Bud Hill.
Yep.
Always. Bud Hill was Danny Daniels. Hats off to you, bro.
Yep.
Love
Go
that
snaps for
place.
Danny.
Love you.
Mr. Danny.
Yep.
And Miss Barbara.
Yep. And
Love y'all.
And miss you guys. Want to come see you soon. But those places always, and even Stonehenge, it just do your own thing, be cool, and that's what makes it great. But I love Bud Hill and Phillips Place, Ogwood, just because you can show up and park and camp. One year I parked right next to the bonfire and just slept in the back of my truck. Okay. So.
Well, I mean, and that's another thing too. Like you mentioned La Mirada, one of the reasons that it is world renowned and it's got a place in history is, that was the first time disc golf courses in public parks really kind of seemed viable because of the structure there. They had the pay to play where for every person that played, it was a certain amount of money that was being generated for the parks. And so it sustained itself. And then they had the pro shops and all that stuff. And so that I think is something that is not as tapped into yet. And I think it's a big place that you're going to see a lot of growth in the next 5 years is places that are purchasing large pieces of land that isn't being developed for for residential or for business areas because it's hilly, it's terrain, it's got a lot of woods, it's this and that. But where you can find it, if you can put in, in the right business model, something that can be self-sustaining, I think that that not only solves the lack of space issue that a lot of public park systems are suffering from, especially in metropolitan areas, but it also, you're talking about more competition among course design from that perspective, because you look at a good example would be a place like Sela Ranch in Texas. John Houck built that, and it's got guest cabins and all that stuff. It's a disc golf destination. It's got multiple courses at different kind of skill levels and different kind of terrain. And so, I think that the more that happens, you have people that know what they're doing from the design perspective, and you build a business around this kind of a complex where you can have multiple courses. Well, then you're taking a lot of the red tape and negotiation and stuff out of planning events if you have private property and you can set all the rules in that way. And I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, that also pushes that's more competition. So you're going to end up with better courses, more amenities. It's just going to make for a better experience.
Well, it shows also the growth where that people are making those investments.
That's the hardest transition. That's the biggest transition and it historically has been that way where people, as soon as they're all about growing the sport, but as soon as you ask them to pony up a little bit of the pesos, they're always like, oh, well, no, you're making me pay for disc golf and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, if everybody chips in a little bit, and it's already that same philosophy with taking care of the courses. Yes. So if everybody chips in a little bit, then nobody is carrying a huge burden.
Right.
You know what I mean? And whether, it's memberships, $50 for a year, you know what I mean? And you can go play this course whenever. And that's $50 that course can count on for fuel, for equipment, or for materials, or whatever they need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I really want to see money put in on the front end for people like Philip and to have money to be able to do the upgrades and so forth at the course. Sure. And he won't accept money. You just have to make it part of, you're going to play out there, you're going to have to pay a little bit, and I'm in big agreement with that.
donation box? Like if you got Phillips.
I've got him to the point where he's open to having a donation box, and that'll
Yeah.
help. But like what we've kind of how we've survived over the last 6 years or so has always been anytime there was a need there, then we did some kind of fundraising, whether it was an event or a raffle or some kind of fundraising. Or like we got bag tags. We're about to get new bag tags for Ogwood again, so I've got the design in the works, and that'll be coming soon.
Sweet.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think the private sector is where you're going to see a lot of growth for disc golf in the next 5 to 10 years. We'll take a quick break so everybody can stretch their legs, go to the bathroom, respond to messages and stuff. Real quick, what I meant to do at the beginning. So shout out to Bandwagon Music and Repair, our friend Lyndon Lance, member of the club and big advocate of ours, and our good friend who provided us with all the awesome guitar picks that we had at all the bag tags this year.
Oh, cool.
He had this idea that we could get something kind of a prize or award at the end of the year that reflected that, and he had this loose idea. And so shout out to him, shout out to Alan Posey, who refined the idea for a Dimax disc. So all 27, I believe is the right number, people who played at every single bag tag event in 2020 for the Music City Disc Golf Series is going to be getting an Ultimate Warrior bag tag series disc. We'll hold that up for
cool.
yeah.
Boom.
All of the 27 Ultimate bag tag warriors are going to be getting one of these. I believe they're harps.
That's what I was about to ask. What kind of disc it was?
Yep, it's a fusion harp. So those are going around. You can see Dr. Hoy at the WNT to pick up yours if you are one of the people that attended every single one of those series events. And also, we mentioned this with I think Ruthie on the last podcast, but wanted to see my Mulligan Man disc that you guys had Shantae make for me. So I'll hold this up so everybody can see it too.
Hey, Mulligan Man.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of Ogwood,
I remember that.
I mean, look at the detail in my beard, or his beard. Look at that.
I like Kanye West glasses on.
I don't care
yeah.
what you say. That's still ugly.
Yeah, well, it's majestic.
Artistically ugly.
And
Artistically ugly.
if you missed out on that disc, there might be something coming up next year.
Foul man.
Never know. No. Not that. The music, keeping up with the picks, attending every event at the bag tag.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like a foul man. I'm just gonna hey, wrong disc. Foul.
I was actually
turkey.
telling Will before we went live. I was like, man, I was thinking that I need to come up with something, but I was like, if I don't come up with something good enough,
Dude,
I'm like, get out there, and they're gonna be like, dude,
straight up.
just
Here's
go
what
back.
you gotta do.
Just go back.
Just dress like a referee and get a flag. Start
Start throwing flags.
Yeah, there you go.
Just like random foot faults.
Foot fault, man.
Oh, I'm the football calling captain right there.
There you go, Captain Foot Fault.
Even
Just
if
have your
Captain
entire
Football.
waistline
I like it.
like packed full of flags and just be throwing them out everywhere.
it's an elbow fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like the way your hat's tilted.
You're putting with the
Stroke.
wrong hand.
I could be that guy. I really could.
Hey man, I got one good idea per day. You can have it.
You'd be
For
good
the
at
Halloween
that
at
job.
Ogwood, that's a great event.
I just found a job
That's a
for
great job.
Kerns.
Great job.
You gotta get a referee outfit.
Something we were talking about, when you were talking about Cassie, we were talking about the disc golf wives, and I was thinking, because we always have this where we come up with an idea, like $1 million idea for a show, is like the Real Housewives of Disc Golf. That would be a
The
funny
Real
show.
Housewives of Disc
That would be a
Golf.
funny
You guys-
show. That would be a reality show I would watch.
See, here's
All
the
the women
thing.
have the same look on their face.
That you guys just, you don't know. I am the luckiest guy in the world when it comes to a disc golf wife.
No,
My
me.
wife kicks me out of the house to go play disc golf just to get out of her hair. Trust me. After 26, we're having our 25th anniversary this year.
Congratulations,
Our silver
man.
anniversary, yes.
That's awesome.
And we still wake up smiling at each other. That's an amazing feat.
Absolutely.
But yeah, she does not want me around being in her hair when she's cleaning and doing what she's doing. Get the hell out of the house, go play disc golf, do something.
It may sound like that's the key to a happy marriage, guys.
It
You guys,
is.
Girls are out there listening.
It is.
Disc golf and getting out and going and do your own thing every now and again. Or being
You
obligated
talking to
to.
anyone in particular?
No. No, I'm just saying that just might be the key to a happy marriage. I mean, he's 25 plus and he's been playing disc golf probably 25 or more of those. maybe
This-
24,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
So when he's saying she's kicking him out, maybe that's what it is. It's just that time away that you may need.
Disc golf life, happy wife.
Yeah, I think so.
Happy wife, happy life,
And
but
it,
happy
it only
man,
works with
happy
wives
life,
because
happy wife.
We see
There
guys
you go.
lose girlfriends all the time, right?
Right.
So put the time in with your girlfriend. But when you got a wife, maybe that's the key.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, you never know. Disc golf solves all.
It's just feeling it out, baby. Feeling it out.
Hey, what else are you gonna? If
feel
you're
free-
playing disc golf, you're not in any trouble. You're not out, running
As long
around.
as they don't believe that at first.
I've pulled that
And
argument
then-
card out every once in a while.
Then they come with you and they're like, "Oh, yeah, that was fun. Well, you want to go back? And it's a blast, right? You want to come back?
No.
No.
Boring.
Then they never say
yeah.
another word.
yeah.
And that's what it takes. You got to get them out there, show them what it's about, and then they'll never bother you again.
There has been once or twice where I've pulled that out in an argument with my wife where she'll bring up how much I play disc golf and I say, well, some guys are out at strip clubs and bars all hours of the night. I'm just out throwing frisbees in the woods with my friends.
Yeah,
Preach.
Exactly.
Yep.
Say it again.
Shout out to the disc golf widows. Golf snaps.
We'll be home soon, hopefully.
The
Maybe.
real disc golf widows of disc golf.
Dang. This is going.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Truck, yeah, gave it to him, and that's what really shows what great people are, is that they remember where they came from, and they respect that, and then they, give to that. They make it part of their lives instead of just going, well, case in point. What was that stupid little bastard's name? Are you recording this?
Yep. Every
Oh,
bit
shit.
of it.
Pee Wee Herman. He said, I walked over everybody to get to where I was and blah, blah, blah. And, just treat people like shit. And then you look at somebody like The Rock, who respects where he came from, got kicked out of Hawaii, I guess, and came here and was kind of forced to live with some guy he didn't know, and they became great friends. And, 30 years later, and after he's a multimillionaire, it's like, here's something back. So you remember where you come from, and if you've got that, then that shows.
Well, then don't
you're
jack
good
off in
people.
movie theaters.
We are recording, by the way. Yeah. Pineapple.
Well, you have
Pineapple. That's the safe word of the day.
That's
Pineapple.
that's the safe word of the show.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel? What do you think is the biggest thing that's changed since you started playing disc golf and now? Because you're looking at probably 26 years of playing disc golf. That's really the evolution of the sport. Because when the PDGA first was created, they were based here in Tennessee before they moved to Georgia.
They were just trying to establish some numbers, and back then it was trying to get to 10,000. I think now they're surpassed 150 or something.
Yeah.
Close to.
So the numbers are astronomical from what they were. But the biggest thing that's changed is that it's more business. There's more of a business end to
Industry.
it,
Yeah.
in it, and I guess that's okay. I still love what it was. It was just that quiet, hidden under the couch thing. The freedom. It was a free thing, not just free money-wise. It was free mentally. It was free spiritually. It just do your own thing, do it your way. And nobody had any control over anything. It was just there. And I refer to it as an old hippie sport because it's just not regulated. It's not controlled, but now there's so many things, underlying things that are there. But that's just time. That's just the way things change. And I accept it. I just try and still stay hidden.
Well, and kind of to touch back on something I was talking about earlier too. I mean, it still very much is what it was. I mean, in the bulk of our events, are unsanctioned. You talk about our our bread and butter, our bag tag series. That's unsanctioned.
Love it. Love the bag tags.
And I think that our foundation here for disc golf in Nashville is centered around our weeklies, our bag tag events, and I think that is always going to continue to be that way.
Sure.
You know, with the growth, I mean that it's becoming a spectator sport,
Yes.
and an industry is developing around it for sure. But I think that the spirit of it is still very much alive, and I think that really shows in how many people are joining the PDGA, because as far as like you think of a random fluke type event like a pandemic that we experienced this year, that sends a lot of people out to the parks, you know, looking
Yes.
for a way to engage in some kind of activity. So disc golf, obviously, that we capitalized on that with a lot of sales and a lot of new people playing disc golf. But a membership with the PDGA, that's a commitment. So when you see membership in PDGA spiking like that, I think that is it signifies that it's not just people randomly showing up in a Dick's Sporting Goods and buying some discs and walking out to the nearest course that they know of. It's also that they're falling in love with it. They're catching the bug. You know what I mean? They're having that experience that really solidifies their place in the sport and like the place that disc golf has in their life. I think that's signatory of it.
I liken it to going camping, going fishing. It's your own thing. You make it what you want it to be.
Yeah.
And if you want to join the group and join the association and so forth, fine. But you don't have to. And that's what is the real beauty of it, is that it's still free to do as you want. You don't have to set up tee times. You don't have to rent a little cart to go around. You show up with your bag, a couple beers in your bag, and go for broke. And whether you do it alone, do it with friends, it's your own thing. It's your own. It's you against the course, and that's the beauty of it. You don't have to have this, so many team members or certain clubs or anything like that. It is you mono against the basket,
And see how the chips fall.
and see where it happens, and all the friends that you make along the way, and the associations, and I don't necessarily have people coming over to my house every weekend and so forth, but boy, you show up at the disc golf course, and you see a few familiar faces, and all of a sudden you got a group to play in, and you just go for it, and it's a great old time, and you don't have to feel like that you have to participate in something. You are participating. You don't need to be in a group or in an organization, or it's yours. You get to have it the way you want.
Yeah, and you mentioned, and speaking of all the people that we've lost that were here for the very beginning stages of disc golf in this area, I mean, those people live on forever with us. And that's the point of having these kind of conversations and doing this podcast too, is it very much is still a niche and tight-knit family type community, even though it is growing explosively. But it's important to remember those people that were the figureheads of building our foundations. And it's interesting how it all comes full circle too, because Ben Northcutt, obviously we've had Scott Stokely on the podcast a lot over the last year, and he was just here recently for a period of time and helped us raise some money for Ogwood, and we were recording his audiobook here in the studio. And the way that we actually first made contact was when his book was going through the final editing and fact-checking phases, right before it was actually released. He contacted me to verify some information about Ben, because he was mentioning Ben in the book. His second tournament, when he first went out to go on tour, was here in Nashville, and he stayed with Ben Northcutt.
Ben.
Yeah, and so he wanted to give him a shout out in the book, and that was how he ended up touching base with me. And so it's just interesting, you know what I mean? Ben's going to always be a figurehead here because of what he did, and how we talked culturally here for disc golf this year, that whole philosophy of work and play and all that stuff, and giving back to the courses.
Well, one thing I've always hoped happened is that the names of the people who've been there, whether you know them or not, but they were disc golfers. They are or were. As time progresses, we're going to lose people. We're going to lose a lot more, and of the people who really made disc golf what it is today. And I don't think you need to have a monument to everybody. I think what you need is to just throw the names out there so people can see them in an environment where this is kind of a memory. This is a remembrance. And I'm not the type of person that wants to end up in some kind of a cemetery. I'd rather have my name on something that says, you know what, I was here. Not necessarily in some kind of graffiti mark or whatever, but just this was my home. This was, my passion. And the people who will remember those names coming through, they may not remember all of them, but they're going to remember some of them, and the stories and times that were there and what they had. And I think it's important to have a list of those names so that people can remember those people and go, you know what? I remember that person. I knew that person, or I have a story about that person. And we talk about like Freddie Gibbs and Ben Northcutt and even people you may not recognize. Steve Phelan, who was a big part of the soda organization I was talking about earlier. And I laughed because it was just, he was a laughable person to know. These people, it may not be remembered by everybody, but they are remembered by enough people that means something to them, and that's deep. And I prefer deep, just, even a name etched in stone over monuments.
Yeah. And I think it's appropriate because, especially with the way that we interact with the land that we use, when you're playing around a disc golf, you're not just observing nature or kind of casually passing by it. You're forcing a projectile through certain presented obstacles and stuff that are part of the land and part of the terrain. And so you work it, you play it. It's part of, you know what I mean? Like, you give to it and you take from it, and it's this big symbiotic relationship and a personal investment. And in a real way, those people are leaving an imprint of them on that course. You know what I mean? That's kind of the thing that I always said about Freddie. It's like Seven Oaks is what Seven Oaks is in large part because Freddie was there. And, and not just Freddie, but because of all that was, there is a lasting effect on the energy and the vibe at Seven Oaks because of Freddie's time there, and in the same way of many other people. And one of the many ideas that have come and had to go to the back burner over the last few years that I've been working with the club, me and Kim Birdie were talking about a Tennessee Disc Golf Hall of Fame, and so that might be something that's on the agenda to actually start seeing about.
Well, I know exactly what we've talked about this before, and did a project out at kind of like a memorial out at Seven Oaks.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that kind of stuff too. I want to see more of that as well.
Like a brick garden, like exactly what I was talking about, with names and a brick or a stone, whatever we want to do around the big tree out on hole 18 right there.
I've mentioned before too. It's like the new people that know that the elevated basket at Cedar Hill is called Big Ben. Right. But they have no idea who Ben Northcutt was.
The tree out in the middle of hole 18 at Seven Oaks is Fusson's tree for Dan Fusson. And that tree is, when it was planted, it was dying out at the top, and it got topped, and it has turned into an incredible tree now. And Dan Fusson was another very memorable guy who always gave to disc golf, and that tree was planted in his honor. And so many other things have been talked about. We had a memorial for Jake on hole 4, and I just think it's important to pick a spot and say, you know what, let's just put the names here. Let's just make this the place of remembrance. A hole 11, I think, is a great place to have some kind of a remembrance of people that have come and gone from us, and they don't necessarily have to be great disc golfers or have such great memories in the past. They were there.
Yeah.
And that's what matters. They were there. And I want to see their names remembered. I want to bring their names up and make it where they're talked about again and not just forgotten to history. Yeah.
And it makes sense to put them somewhere like 11. Where,
I like 11.
Where people congregate, where people, like it's a gathering place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Seven Oaks is a special place like that too.
It is.
And you mentioned it, like that becomes part of your casual lifestyle. I mean, like there are people that come back that have moved away for 10, 15 years and come back and they go to Seven Oaks Tuesday night. They know somebody's going to be out there playing doubles at Seven Oaks on Tuesday night.
What's the story of Buford? Do you know?
Buford and Jake were two young guys that lived right down the street from the park, and they would just show up and play, with us as kids. I think they were 10, 12 years old when they started playing. And they, of course, had their own little thing going on between them. And both of them were just astronomical disc golfers. They could fling a disc like nobody I'd ever seen. Buford especially. I think Buford even went on to... I think he was going to go to the Olympics. I know he's a teacher now. And unfortunately, Jake developed a desire for drugs. And unfortunately, that's what kind of ended his life. I saw him the last night before he passed away. And it saddened me. It saddened me to see the condition he was in and then to hear later on of what happened to him. But Buford, I got to give so much credit. The boy became a man, and the man went out and though he may not have been in the Olympics, he now is an instructor. I think he's a teacher, a physical education teacher. And it just shows that, just because he was exposed to a negative element doesn't mean he lived it. And so I saw him, I want to say a couple of years ago, he came out. I did not recognize the man. Absolutely did not recognize the man. And I was so happy to see him. And he was so happy to see me. I was surprised he remembered who I was. And
a lot of the, I guess, any of the golfers that's been around for a little while definitely would call me Buford at some point. Like, no, but as soon as I meet him, and then we became good friends. I got his number, and we played, I guess, recently, maybe around, July last year, maybe. I guess that's recent. At Sanders Ferry, yeah.
I have always enjoyed Buford, and glad to see, even though such a negative thing happened with losing his, and those two were inseparable back in the day, losing such a good friend. But he still comes around and remembers all of us and wants to participate. So you got to love these guys that come back. I get a kick out of guys that have just disappeared and come back out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know Scott. Excuse me. Scott. What's his last name? Anyway, he lived in China. The guy, he worked at Gibson Guitar and moved to China and stayed there forever. I think now he's back. I'll come up with the last name in a second. I can't believe I can't remember.
I think I know who you're talking about. But.
Yeah. Anyway, he was gone for so long, and just to have people show up that have been gone, and that's a neat experience. To come back and show yourself and so forth,
and have a place like that to center on and come and grab
and still be welcomed, and enjoy their company.
And in a world where everything is constantly changing, that's one of those little pockets in the universe that just kind of stays the same.
Yeah.
But the community that you meet and the community members that are here, they leave an impacting impression on you.
Yeah.
And
I think
lasts
that
for a long
now,
time.
Seven Oaks is that kind of place that now the new folks that are coming around are they can see and they feel that special atmosphere that Seven Oaks has. And they see the people that are there all the time, that have been there for years and years and years, and it's that sacred nature of that ground is being passed on to this new generation. And I understand your hesitance to the way that the sport is evolving and all that stuff, and I totally understand why you're protective of it, because I'm the same way. I mean, one of the reasons that it is as special as it is to me is for the intangible reasons. It's for what it represents in life and the part of my life that it occupies, that otherwise would not be occupied. That would I would be lacking in my life. So that is part of why I want to share it with people, and that's why I put efforts in the directions that I do. But as far as how I think it always needs to maintain and retain that spirit of brotherhood and family and
that individuality and so forth. That stuff that kind of goes by the wayside as time progresses, because people fill the gaps, and you have to be willing to accept change. I'm not saying I'm always willing to, but I'm saying that, you have to be an understanding of it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. The new people that come in, I hope they put the effort in that others have put in before them, and realize to have something special, you have to make it something special. You have to make it something special. You can't rely on them to make it something special. And so if you really love it, you've got to put a little bit of yourself into it. Doesn't mean you have to put in, 40 hours a week to it and be the person who volunteered the year,
club
or whatever,
president or
club,
yeah,
whatever. What it means is you just are a participant, and whether your name's on it, whether it shows up years later, shouldn't matter. That's your own thing. You did this. You're a part of it. This is your world that you're a representative of.
And it can be as simple as the course that you play at the most. You just go out there and find out when the guys are getting together to work trash cans or run a weed eater or whatever. And you just go and show up and help and then play with them. And you just become a part of it. And when you have invested yourself into something and applied yourself to something like that, that's something that carries not only with you later on in life, but carries on with that spot, because the people that do stay there they're going to tell stories, and you're going to be a part of the memories that are made of that place. And that's rewarding. You know what I mean? That's the kind of
extremely rewarding.
That's the kind of stuff that's important, that you realize is important as you get like later on in life, and you're looking back at all the things that you choose to give your time and your attention to, and it's those types of things. Like, where did I really leave a piece of myself?
And wanted to be a part of. And show that this is mine, and yet it's all of ours.
Yeah.
So
you want to give us a little tip?
Ooh.
Is it time for the tip of the week?
Yeah, we can do the tip of the week.
Tip of the week.
Yeah. We
tip of the week,
ask our guests to give us a tip. It doesn't have to be like, about disc golf. It can be like about, showing up on time. It can be about like getting your mind right before the game. But it has to be about disc golf.
It has to be about disc golf.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be like about
somewhat disc golf related.
Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be like give me techniques on throwing. It can be like showing up early. It can be like stretching before the round or listening to music before.
Well, I am a huge believer that a sidearm throw is much more accurate than a backhand throw. It's just my opinion. I'm not a great disc golfer. But the idea that you can look at your target and throw and watch your release point at your target especially in close range, I think shows that you can be much more accurate in control than you can with just flinging a backhand. So, and I say that because my only claim to fame in disc golf is I have the purple piece of shit. And to my friends who know what that is, I have an old purple Omega. I've been throwing them since they came out. And the thing that I love to do, and my favorite shot in disc golf, is a right to left, slightly Anheuser sidearm flick. And it doesn't matter if it's 30 feet or 100 feet. I'm throwing that, and it's going to be close.
Okay.
So whether it slams the chains, I wish I could say it always does. It doesn't always slam the chains. But being able to put your eye behind your shot, snapping a little sidearm, controlled flick, not some big, wave an arm thing. I'm just talking control. You can make that thing really turn into something accurate and
so learn a touch flick game, kids.
Touch flick is
right.
is some shit.
I don't have a sidearm drive. I do not have one whatsoever. I do weird stuff when I try to put power on a sidearm, but I do quite often throw up to 200 feet with a mid range or something like that, and I've been known to putt sidearm in certain situations.
Absolutely.
But yeah, learning how to work a putter on sidearm routes, that's very, very useful.
Yeah.
For close range approach shots in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Got to work on that finesse game.
Yep.
Yeah, especially you're playing courses around like here where it's ups and downs and it's in the woods. And
Well, we mentioned the two water disc courses, Seven Oaks and Cedar Hill. And you can see why he does so well at both.
Yeah.
He's got that touch.
for sure.
That touch.
Well, I don't know if you've ever played down in Miami, but they have these palmettos that are these huge, sharp, razor sharp bushes that you have to get around. You have two choices. You either throw a turbo shot over the top of the damn things, or you throw something around it. So you better have a way to step out and do something. Otherwise, it's just a wall.
You got to have a tool bag.
You got to have a tool bag. So
here's a random question because I know you came from California and you're here. Where does the love for the Green Bay Packers come from?
So I, like I said, grew up in Cali, moved to Nevada, and started working in the casino industry in '91. At that time, casinos started popping up all over the United States, and I was sent to Wisconsin to work on a job. So while I was there, this company that I worked with set us up at a project in Green Bay, Wisconsin at the Oneida Bingo and Casino. And they put us up at the Embassy Suites not only for 3 months, which is just awesome, free drinks every night, and et cetera, but they also gave us tickets to a Packer game, Packer Tampa Bay game. Brett Favre was quarterback, and it was the most amazing experience at Lambeau Field. I'm talking this stadium is in the middle of like neighborhood Antioch.
Dan Marino?
It's just,
Dan Marino?
No, the field. The field was in the middle.
field.
No. Packers versus.
He said Favre.
Tampa
He said
Bay.
Brett Favre.
Oh,
yeah.
no, I thought he said Miami. I'm sorry. I'm like Dan Marino versus Brett Favre. Okay.
No. So, and this was in December, so it was colder than, I'll get out. Everyone's in orange flannel because they just got back from deer hunting. It's just, and I'm the average size of a Wisconsinner. So you can imagine, all of us, and they have, stadium seating. So it's all just kind of everybody huddle and bring your own best, drink and something warm, something to keep you warm. Pre 9/11.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it, and I've been a huge Packer fan ever since.
It's interesting. We've had kind of a theme lately because we had Holly Finley on not too long ago, and she grew up here, and now she lives in Wisconsin. And when we had her on, she was on through Zoom, and so she was in a room that had like Green Bay Packers thing and a Green Bay Packers beanie on, and she was talking about that very thing. She was like, even if you're not from Wisconsin, you come here and just like the electricity of the enthusiasm of the fans that they have there, and like how much the community revolves around the team, that you just can't help but be like fall into it and become a part of it.
When you're looking at right across the street from the stadium, it's somebody's house and they've got it open so everybody can just walk through and they're all partying down.
That's bold.
That was
Right.
Well, now granted, this is 1991,
Yeah.
so a little bit's changed, but
Pre-COVID.
it was a fantastic place
Yeah.
to check out, and it's the only professional team owned by the city and not by an individual.
Yeah.
The only professional team.
And that's why they still have that historic name on the stadium. I mean, I know all the stadiums used to have those. They were named after somebody significant that, I know for me being a third generation Chargers fan, it was, we had Jack Murphy Stadium, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now everything's Qualcomm and
Yes.
Bridgestone and Nissan and
Yep.
Nabisco. But anyway, man, Kerns, we'll definitely do this again. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for making the drive and coming out and hanging out with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be a part of this and to be a part of disc golf after all these years. And I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I may kind of dry up and get old and sitting in my truck, but I'm still there. I still want to.
There's all kinds of stuff in that brain we got to pick out of there. I mean, I think we could do story time with Kerns many times and probably not get the.
Well, I'm just glad you said yes, because when I first asked you, you didn't seem like you would have much to say. But I was like, I know that's not true.
I always wondered how he would feel about it, but I'm glad you were down to come and hang out.
Absolutely.
I'm very, very humbled, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again, man. Well, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, you've seen a lot, and I know the Oaks has always been a place where things can get a little dicey from time to time. But yeah, thanks, Steve, and hopefully I'll get to play a little golf with you this year.
Absolutely. I love to. One thing that's nice about now is that I don't play every day, but because I don't, I feel stronger when I play.
Yeah.
So, I get out every week or, maybe every couple of weeks, depending on the scenario. But I feel that there's still something there.
Yeah. Well,
that's the plan, right? Just to play until you can't play anymore.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's what I'm.
we need you to
going
stick
with it.
around so that these new little whippersnappers that keep coming around the course these days don't
Leaving
bring
their
their
dogs
dogs
off
and
of
having their
leashes and
dogs
stuff.
shitting in the fairways. And
It just blows my mind that I seem to be the old guy now.
I'm right there with you, man. I feel like I'm creeping
As
in
I
there.
said, 96 seems like it wasn't long ago.
No.
I'm the second oldest in here, so calm down.
We're on our way.
Yeah. I'm not gonna fight you on
6'3".
competition on the oldest anymore.
I'm super jealous that Marcus is going to beat me to Masters.
6'3" son downstairs. Oh yeah, the Masters. Oh man,
I wondered
can't-
how tall he was
Masters.
down there.
Not
That's
this year.
only
Next year.
40s.
Next year.
That's 40s.
No.
Yeah, next year.
Marcus is gonna be there. He's shaking.
I
his
turned
head.
39 this year.
He's
I'm
like,
almost this
rookies.
year.
39.
Hey man, when I jump into Masters, I can't wait to
Oh, my
play with you,
God.
like some of these guys over here. And it's like,
That's where all the fun happens.
yeah, I mean, because
Yeah.
these guys get the decision. They're like,
Age
should I play
protection
Masters or should I play Open? Who's in Masters today? Who's
See
in
how
Open
this is
today? All
stacking
right,
up.
I'm
Yeah.
playing Masters today. I'm like, yeah, I can do that now. I can do that.
All
too.
I can say to that is, Steve Hardy refuses to play Legends or any
Yeah.
old guy stuff.
Yeah.
So, if you aren't keeping up with him, you aren't keeping up. So,
And it's hard to keep up with him some days.
oh
true.
my God,
Yeah.
that guy, he's the Energizer disc golfer. He just keeps on trucking.
Hey, how many of his bags do you think he owns like that?
I don't know how many he's owned, but they are the most unique bags. And I think he said he gets them at like one of those.
LL Bean.
Yeah, LL Bean.
We had him on the show. He told us all about the LL Bean tote bags.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like forever we thought it was like the same one, but he's got multiple of them.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah,
He breaks out the new one once in a while.
That's so cool.
And apparently,
It is.
apparently we are doing
He's
something wrong
so
as disc
unique.
golfers.
That's so cool.
He's so unique.
They have the same bag, like confuse everybody. Like, oh man, that
I
bag's
love
always
his
looking
hats.
good.
I always love his hats.
Always had the coolest hats. Yeah, that little fuzzy white thing.
Yeah, the fuzzy white one is exactly the one I'm talking about.
Oh goodness, here we
Yeah.
go again.
Yep.
It's funny, he's known for his tote bag and of course I keep pulling everything back to Stokely's book because I've been that's the world I live in my head. I've been mastering it, but he was talking about a guy that he played with one time that carried all his discs in an ice chest, like in a cooler. And he was like, he's a super nice guy, but I had to wonder, who is this person? Why are they doing this? And nobody carried stools at that time. And he would sit down on he would throw and then sit down on his cooler. And this guy was like, oh my gosh, that's genius. And then now you have all these carts that everybody pulls around and they just sit down on top of them. And
Yeah, isn't that funny how genius works? It's always that one guy, but it's like, what is this weird guy doing? And then, sure enough.
And now you see all kinds of people. Like I saw a guy at Sharp Springs one time. It was like made out of one piece of wood, carved out on the inside. It was like a cylinder kind of shape, but you could put all your discs in it, and it had one separate kind of compartment in it for other stuff. But you could set it on its end, and you could sit on it. And it had a strap so you could throw it over your shoulder. It almost looked like a bongo you would carry or something like that.
Today's Disc Golf Round sponsored by Igloo.
Yeah.
Yes.
By Redneck Ingenuity.
Hey, until I've got one that is motorized and follows me around, like a heel, like a dog, I'm not interested. I'll just carry my little bag.
You could probably rig something up, but our courses don't really, lend themselves to automatic
I remember one year
or robots.
at Chains on the Links, I was on a card with Josh Major, and I had my Zuka cart, and we got into this really in-depth conversation that lasted like 7-8 holes, where that center pole on the back of the Zuka cart, if you had a tripod stand that folded out from there that had another wheel on it, and you could rig a different kind of seat mechanism up,
The angle.
where you could lean it back onto 3 wheels and create a steering mechanism and rig up some kind of an electric motor, and you could actually just sit on it and wheel it around.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the ride on.
Come on. Well, what's the guy's name? Is it Laird Hamilton, the surfer?
Uh-huh.
He had this. He was a part of a GoFundMe for this thing called the golf board.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And it's like it was designed after like the experience of riding a surfboard, but it was this giant surfboard shaped thing that you could ride around on a golf course. And you could put a pole on the front of it to hang your bag off of and steer with that, or you could steer with a remote. Looked really fun, but highly impractical for some disc golf courses, for a wide margin of disc golf courses.
Yeah, that's the problem with disc golf.
But you talk about getting something like that with all-terrain tires on it and decent suspension. You got something there.
Exactly.
$1 million ideas we're just giving away on Last Cash.
No, you ever watch those
Go
Robot
electric.
Wars?
Go electric.
Those Robot Wars and
used to.
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Man, those
Junkyard
things would be
Wars?
perfect. Yeah. Those things would be perfect for this kind of
We need to get
application.
those guys into disc golf.
Yeah,
You know what
for
tripped me
real.
out about that? Those robots are a lot bigger than I thought.
Oh, way, way bigger. When you see them on TV,
Yeah.
they look tiny, but like I've seen one up close, and those things are like 4 or 5 feet. Like, like huge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is crazy too, because if you've ever been to an NBA basketball game, like when you see them on TV, yeah, you know they're tall, but then when you see them, you're like, oh, you're tall. Like,
Yeah, like there was a guy that worked in the supply chain at Vanderbilt, and you would see him in the basement from time to time, and it was legit like a 7'1" dude. But you see him just come out of a door and around a corner in scrubs, and you're like, holy cow! Like, man, that is a different. That is an outlier among human beings right there. That is a Ferrari among Fiats.
yeah, that they can't fit in.
That's why we are not playing professional basketball.
That is, yeah, that's very true. So true.
That's a good outro.
Yeah, for sure. That's a
We're
good
not
one.
bad.
Why the
players.
guys at the Sapphire Lounge don't play professional ball?
Next week.
Because then we wouldn't be sitting here talking crap.
Well, somebody's got to sit around and pay for the experience.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Buy all the merch.
Yeah.
Go Utah.
Yeah.
Go Pack. Packers going to be in the championship
Super.
game this weekend.
We're not allowed to say that on the air. So the big game, yes.
Yeah, we don't need to
whatever.
talk about the Titans.
But yeah, we got
The poor
smoked.
Titans.
We've made the playoffs 2 years in a row. That's good, right?
Yeah.
Baby steps, right?
Yeah. From where we came from after our McNair and Eddie George years,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Mario.
Go sports ball.
Yeah, Mario. He tried.
I call him Mario.
Oh boy.
Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you on the flip side. And happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day, everybody. I always forget that.
Happy
It's
holiday.
okay. Yeah.
Go throw some disc.
Yep. Go throw some discs to chains.
Slam chains.
Bang chains. Happy Bang Chains Day.
Happy chain.
Peace out, guys. See you next week.
Let the bass kick.